I have said for ages that the people who create frameworks are generally ignorant of the most basic concepts behind web development. Starting off strong, They don't know or understand HTML and semantic markup. They fail to grasp why the separation of concerns between HTML, CSS, and JS exists. They never once... That's a very long sentence. They never once consider media targets, accessibility, HTTP parallelism, or any other meaningful metric of quality website development. This is true about every single person who creates frameworks. If you have ever in your mind, ever in your life, decided to make a framework, this is going to happen to you. Don't make frameworks. The people who create frameworks, yes. Why the emphasis anyway? Basically, they put their ignorance on full display, then attribute all sorts of unfounded merits to whatever they've done, hoping that everyone else pats them on the back for it. And it's scary how many people will pat them on the back and say, well done, for these monuments to the ugliest of mid-1990s development practices. That lack of understanding is why they build alternatives. They either never learned, refused to learn, or didn't find out where or even why things are done a certain way, and go diving to say, I can do better, before they even know what better is, much less have the ability to recognize how badly they are screwing themselves, and everyone else who gets suckered into thinking the nonsense is magically easier, better, or any of the other glittering generalities, and propaganda-driven bunko being peddled. My god. This person has strong feelings. HTMX has all that in spades. That seems like a random anecdote. Nose breathing I'm sorry, since when is is this a meme? Since when is nose breathing an insult? Did I miss some? Are you not supposed to breathe? What are you supposed to breathe through if not your nose? If you look at their broken and accessible website, I'll get to that more in a bit. The very first actual content sentence, HTMX gives you access to AJAX, CSS transitions, WebSockets, and server-sent events directly in HTML, using attributes so you can build modern user interfaces with the simplicity and power of hypertext. Right off the bat tells us they've got failwind or boot crap levels of screw the users, screw caching, screw parallelism, screw the separation of concerns. Where does it say that? Oh, you're supposed to breathe through your ears. I'm sorry. You're supposed to breathe through the pores in your exoskeleton. Oh. Why is this person so angry? Since scripting-only behaviors are scripting-only, they do not belong in the HTML in the first place in all but the rarest of corner cases. They do not belong in the HTML in the first place in all but the rarest of corner cases. Okay. They are literally saying to slop made-up attributes into the markup for scripting, recreating everything that was wrong with wuckfittery, like on events, or even the outmoded, long-deprecated appearance attributes. It is literally to JavaScript what failwind and bootcrap are to... Okay. I get the argument... Disregarding everything about the point this person is making, but what does Bootstrap have to do with that? I know that Bootstrap has some utility classes, but that's not the point of Bootstrap. Okay, so, in short, this person hates putting stuff into the HTML. And I do understand where he's coming from, but... the points that he's making are like... This is like the you should use React for everything mindset. I mean, the points are... conditionally valid. And the tone is kind of interesting, yeah. Then they go on to list several reasons they created this, and that's where the lack of understanding gets put on display. Why should only Anchor and Form be able to make HTTP requests? Because for accessibility reasons, swapping in and out content is rubbish for users on things like screen readers and braille readers. I'm pretty sure that's not true. I'm pretty sure screen readers natively support switching out content. That's like, even when you use a link or form, like, you're always gonna be swapping content. I think that has nothing to do with HTMX though. Like, you can, whether you use HTMX or JavaScript for this, you can make the same user experience. Like, this is like a decent point to make, but it's like completely unrelated to HTMX. You're also making life harder for search. The entire reason we have button type button is so that we can distinguish between scripting only and non-scripted. I'm not sure that's the truth, but I don't know enough about this to dispute it. Why should only click and submit events trigger them? It's the simplest way for interfaces to work when interacting with all sorts of user agents. What the devil other types of triggers would you have for user interaction that wouldn't be too complex and inherently scripting only to have zero business in the HTML? I think if this person just made their point with a little bit less anger, it would be a lot easier to read this article. Why should only get and post methods be available? Create, delete, put, and so forth are really pointless for anything that isn't server-to-server communication. Why? I don't agree with that part. And could in fact also be security risks. I'm pretty sure this exists is only because this like far precedes the other HTTP verbs being a thing. I'm pretty sure no one making PHP thought what when they were like making PHP 1 and they were like, how should we design our language? I know, let's do $_get and $_post because that sounds like an amazing user experience. The other verbs either didn't exist, or the people making PHP didn't know about them. Create is supposed to create a new file overwriting the current HTML. I don't think that's true. I don't think it's like specific to HTTP. Wait, create doesn't even exist. What do you mean? What's this person talking about? See, I was confused. I was like, I've never heard of HTTP create. Yeah, pretty much. The others are basically just semantics on post. Or, I mean... It's basically just a way of shortening your path, really. So you can do CRUD more easily with, the same path. I'm pretty sure it doesn't have to be HTML. Like, it's just a resource, and a resource can be anything. Why should you only be able to replace the entire screen so that you can hotlink easily to each of your pages? Okay, but sometimes you need to change something on the current page too. Again, I feel like all of this person is saying doesn't really apply to HTMX, but just to designing web pages in general. Which again, some of the points he's making are good, but why is he yelling? So that you're not jumping through batshit crazy hoops bloating out the markup. All things this current age of let's use 200k of HTML to do 10k's job. I think he's saying that people use too much code to do a job that could be shorter. Which, I do agree that there's a lot of bloat in the web right now, but I don't know, people aren't perfect. It's okay if things aren't implemented perfectly. It means absolutely nothing to the rank-and-file posers, whatever that means, and frauds making up so-called web development experts. These are not arbitrary constraints unless you literally don't give a flying purple fish. This person is just making up, like, idioms at this point. About anything more than scripting-enabled screen media users. Again, I do see their point, and I think it's good that they're passionate about accessibility. But I don't think it's it's not the tool's fault, you know? Even the first example. Okay, this swaps out the button, yeah. I mean, he's right that that wouldn't be pretty good for, like, I'm pretty sure this wouldn't be good for accessibility, right? How do you feel about that, Vettel? If you just replace a button that you click on, then I'm pretty sure that would be bad for accessibility. That being said, this is a simple example, and you normally never would just replace a button that you click with something else. That's just not a UI that you're likely to have. A button with scripting-only behavior static in the markup. I mean, honestly, it's 2023. I don't think we need to care about people who have JavaScript disabled. I'm sorry, but we are so far past the point of making websites for people with JavaScript disabled. I don't think anyone cares about NoScript anymore. Like, that seems like a silly argument to make because outside of, like, hobby projects where they do it, like, for fun, and no one, like, who's gonna have JavaScript disabled? Seriously speaking. Why, and also who? Like, there's no reason to turn it off. You're just denying yourself the internet if you turn off JavaScript. Yeah, you can't really do it by accident. It's true. So yeah, point taken that this is a bad example because you should never do this in your UI, but it's also just a simple example to show what it can do, you know? Oh yeah, with the response, exactly. I do take the point that this is like a bad example. They should probably pick a better example to show off their library because this is not really something you want to do in your UI ever, but it's still just an example, you know? Okay, let's look at real examples. Yeah, the response would just be HTML here. It's really not like a real world example, you know? I mean, I've said this before, but I think HTMX is really good for prototyping when you don't want to have a lot of front-end logic yet, and you just, have a lot of CRUD stuff you want to display, and you, don't have a bunch of client-side logic, at least not yet, then I think it can make it really easy to prototype. Okay, wait, what? Okay, so this is... gets a graph and does something on load and... okay. Div for nothing static in the markup should probably be an inline block span generated... what? I'm sorry, what is he saying? Div for nothing static in the markup should probably be an inline block span generated by the script. Where's the actual loading equals lazy or anything to stop the image from loading? Oh, is this supposed to trigger when the image... I don't really understand what is happening here. I think I don't know HTMX well enough to understand this. I don't really know, like, I don't understand this code and I don't understand the point he's making. Much less does result loading really describe what the image is off. Remember, alt is the fallback. Text for when the image doesn't load or something like your script tartary screws up. Damn, okay. I want to see this. What does this do? I mean, I think for this result loading makes sense. Okay, so it gets like this, and then does this just replace the... oh, okay, listen. So I suppose it like loads I want to see what this does. Where does it load the graph thing? I don't really understand what it does. Why are we looking at the forbidden thing from our web dev? Because it was sent this very angry article and it's amusing me. And I'm trying to understand what he's so angry about. Progress bar. That's a lot of code. It's a submit button, diff possibly for nothing but progress. Don't we have a tag for progress, which is why the code it gets turned into. On top of diff being diff soup rubbish, with tab index and a non-focusable element, learn HTML. This is a good point. This probably shouldn't be focusable. Are we a roll crap? Because... okay. Yes, okay. I will take the point that the examples are not great. But then why does it say autofocus? What's the point of this having autofocus here? Like, this wouldn't be focusable to begin with, would it? I will give this person this. The HTMX examples are pretty weird. I hadn't looked at them before, but they're doing some kind of weird stuff in their examples. Though going from that to saying everyone who creates frameworks knows nothing about HTML is kind of a bit generalizing. Like, this person makes some valid points, but why are they so angry? I think it takes away from their points to be so angry. This is true. Bad examples doesn't mean the framework is bad. I agree. It's also entirely possible that this person is just, cherry-picking the worst stuff. Hard-coded to the idea instead of using element closest. I mean, that's fine. Static image in the markup within a wall text? That's an issue? Yeah. Again, this person is just complaining about the examples, which, yes, I agree. If you're making examples for your framework, you want to make them follow best practices, and I feel like if you wrote all this to HTMX in a bit of a nicer way, they would probably fix it. Even the website shows they know nothing about HTML or CSS. A lot of people will say, oh, it's just the website. The website for a project should be a reflection of the competence of its I feel like that's such an unfair argument to make. Even if that's true, even if we were to accept that the website is terrible, there's probably one person making the website, and you can't just discount the work of everyone working on the project because the website isn't good. Oh, now he's breaking down the code of their website. It's clear they don't know HTML. No doc type, no media targets for what's clearly screen-only CSS, no attempt at reducing handshakes, no preloads, and worst of all, blocking scripts in the head without a deferred sign. All of those are valid criticisms. All of those are valid criticisms. They are just not criticisms at HTMX. I think the correct way to write this would have been, it could have been an email to them, or it could have been public, but just be like, hey, you guys are the current meme framework. You're making a framework that people love to use, and that means a lot of people are looking to you for guidance to how to write websites. As such, it would be really important to make sure certain things about the web, like accessibility and performance, are represented in your examples and your website. I think it's a valid point to make, but I think taking that to oh, these guys suck and everyone who makes frameworks suck is just kind of weird. I'm not sure that's true. I think there's some subtle differences to doing this and putting them before body. I don't know what Zola v2 do is, but if that's what's making... I don't know what that means. He's just like picking apart everything about the markup now. I'm not gonna read all of this because he's just picking apart the entire markup, which, again, yes, solid points, but doesn't say anything about the framework, and don't be so angry. Hash link target trick, I don't know what that is. Screen only style of the markup because they were too lazy to make a notice class. I don't agree with this at all. I think there's nothing wrong with inline styles. 95% of the time you see style, and 100% of the time you see the style element, you're looking at those pesky 3i of web development. Ignorance, incompetence, and ineptitude. Okay, dude. Inline styles have issues, do they? No, I'm just looking at this because it's very angry and it amuses me. I don't think they're necessarily bad for maintainability. You shouldn't use them by default. Like, it's the same reason why I don't really like Tailwind for maintainability. But I think using them in cases that are truly specific to the element makes sense. Like, I think it makes sense to use inline styles when you have something that's specific to the element and not part of a shareable pattern. And that should be relatively rare, but that is going to exist sometimes. Who's mad at what on the internet today? This person is mad at the people who create frameworks. That's who this person is mad at. They've got a nasty case of turd press too, but okay, dude. Again, all of the points he's making is fair, but I'm gonna skip over a lot of stuff now because, again, he's just picking apart the website now. Okay, the script itself is also... Wait, is it still the script of... Wait, is the entire article just complaining about the website then? Blah, 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 still just picking apart their website. They're complaining about HTMX, and their main reason is that HTMX's website is bad. Which, they make some valid points. Some. And I do think that those should be addressed on the website, but I think to say HTMX's developers and all framework developers are stupid because HTMX's website is bad is a bit weird.